In this video, I am breaking down the 2025 version of the VA Certificate of Eligibility. Arguably the most important form when it comes to obtaining a VA loan, because without it, there is no VA loan. Good to go? Here's the problem, right? The single most important form might as well be in a different language. In other words, it's confusing, and if you don't understand it, you could be missing out on arguably the best benefit afforded to veterans and active duty military. By the end of this video, you'll know what it means, how to read it, where to get it, and at the same time, unlock an exclusive benefit that allows you to build meaningful wealth for you and your family for many years to come. Let's go ahead and break it down for you in a way that the VA never did. My name is Jimmy Vercellino. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, mortgage loan originator specializing in VA loans. Now it's time to put some rounds down range. The VA Certificate of Eligibility. First, I want to start with what it is. It is a document that the VA provides to us on our behalf, right, that states that we're eligible to use a VA loan. What it doesn't say is that you are pre-qualified to use a VA loan. So Jimmy, why do you mention that? Well, because to get this form is one thing, but if you really want to use your VA loan, you have to get pre-qualified to use your VA loan. And the reason why is because a veteran can have this form and not be pre-qualified, or a veteran can get pre-qualified and not have this form and not be able to purchase a house. So it's important that you do both. Good to go? So once again, the VA Certificate of Eligibility is a simple form that tells us as mortgage loan originators and you, the veteran, that you are eligible to use a VA home loan benefit. Before we get into the form, I want to talk about a couple of different ways on how to get it. This confuses a lot of veterans. So if you want to learn how to get your COE, it's really simple. There's two ways to get it. Number one, you can contact a mortgage loan originator, somebody like myself. We can go directly to the VA on your behalf and request a copy through something called WebLGY. It'll be provided to us instantly, or if the veteran wants to get a copy of the COE on their own, by all means, you can certainly do that. The way you would do that is by going to va.gov. You can navigate the website, get a copy there, or if you remember your password, of course, you can go to the eBenefits portal, log into your eBenefits portal. You can retrieve a copy there as well. Once you have your certificate of eligibility in hand, now it's time to contact the lender. Before you do that, we want to make sure that we're understanding this form because it is complicated. It is kind of nuanced, and in addition to that, the VA doesn't really explain it to us. So we get this form and we go, what in the world? The veteran's basic entitlement is $36,000. I can't buy anything for that. Everybody chill out, right? Slow down. I'm going to break it down for you. It doesn't mean that you can only borrow up to $36,000. So I'm going to provide a copy of the COE on the screen so that way you can follow along with me as I'm reading this out to you, okay? So let's start up at the top, right? You guys see VA, Department of Veterans Affairs, right? The reference number, they're going to go ahead and put in your reference number when obtaining that copy. The name of the veteran, Joe Schmuckatelli, right? That's something that we would say in the Marine Corps. You go over to the right, you'll then see the social security number, right? Now, if you go down to the left-hand corner, you'll see entitlement code. Entitlement code, simply stated, represents the time that you served in the military. Branch of service, pretty self-explanatory, right? Hopefully that says Marine Corps. I'm just making sure you guys are paying attention here, all right? All right, so branch of service, right? Whichever branch you served in. Now, funding fee. This is something that I want to park on for just a second. As you can see in this example, the VA funding fee, it shows exempt. SC with monthly award. Jimmy, what does that mean? Well, what it means is that for service-connected veterans, right, you are able to have additional benefits with your VA loan. Jimmy, how do you mean exactly? Well, service-connected veterans with as little as 10% VAD will have something called their VA funding fee waived for life. Jimmy, why is that a big deal, right? Because it literally saves you tens of thousands of dollars over the duration of your home buying career. So you want to use a VA loan for the second, third, fourth, 10th time, right? You can use your VA loan with no funding fee. That's going to save you massively. Once again, it only needs to be 10%. Now, in this box here, you can see on this grid, prior loans charged to entitlement. Let me inform you on what that's explaining to me as the mortgage loan originator. It's basically telling me if you've ever used your VA loan, number one, and number two, if you have an existing VA loan. This is important for me as the lender to understand because it can affect your entitlement amount, all right? Which brings me to my next point. Jimmy, entitlement. What does that even mean, right? Well, think of it like this. The entitlement is a fancy way of saying guarantee. In other words, I think that this is a good opportunity for me to briefly explain how the VA loan works. Remember, the VA is not lending the money. All they do is just guarantee the loan to the lender by 25%. That's why I said at the beginning of the video, right, you can have this form, but you still have to get pre-qualified by a lender because they're the ones that are lending you the money. Following me along on that? My point in saying that is simply this. Entitlement is a guarantee from the VA, which represents 25% of the loan balance. This is the part, or this is the line that confuses a lot of veterans, where it reads, this veteran's basic entitlement is $36,000. Veterans look at this form, they call me and they go, Jimmy, $36,000, right? I can't buy anything for that. I can't buy a truck for that or a vehicle for that. How in the world am I supposed to use my VA loan for 36? Sorry guys, I'm getting excited, right? But my point is that veterans get excited when they see this, and I understand it. Nobody really takes the time to explain it to them. So let me explain to you that entitlement, what it means, what it represents. It's 25% of the loan balance. So I'm gonna write that down, okay? $36,000, okay? That's referred to as something called basic entitlement, all right? So let me kind of walk you through what we as mortgage lenders do next, or how the VA really views this, right? So basic entitlement, that represents 25% of, if you're doing the math on this here with me, right, $144,000, which means that a veteran can get a VA loan up to $144,000 with no money down. Now, maybe you guys are scratching your head and going, Jimmy, that's a little bit better than the $36,000, right? But $144,000, like, have you been kind of watching what's happened to housing values over the duration of the last 5 years? It's like, yeah, I have. In other words, Jimmy, I can't buy anything for $144,000. I get it, right? It makes sense. And VA also gets it as well. Here's what I mean by that. The VA implemented something called bonus entitlement. Okay, so watch this. For 2025 is $165,000, okay, $625. Okay, so in other words, if you go above that $144,000, the VA kicks in additional guarantee for the veteran. You following me along on that? So what that means, or what that represents, so if you take the 36,000, that equals 144, right? If you take that 165, 625, right? You multiply that by 4, that gets you an additional 662, 500 worth of a VA loan. So I'm going to bring this all together here for a second. Hopefully you guys are still following along and you're with me on this, right? But if I add the 144,000 of, the basic entitlement, and then you kick in the additional bonus entitlement of 165, 625, watch what happens next, right? You take those two numbers, you add them together, and it comes up with 806, 500. You with me on that? Right? So that is the conforming loan limit for most counties across the nation, which means that a veteran can get a VA loan up to 806, 500, with 25% of that being guaranteed by the Department of Veterans Affairs. Really quick, guys, I'm going to open up my calendar. If you are serious about purchasing a home and you have questions, I'm going to open up my calendar for you. You're welcome to reserve a time to speak to me. I'll make a link in the description below. I call this a VA preliminary mortgage consult. Like I said, link in the description below. All right, so now 806, 500 is the conforming loan limit. So I'm going to keep kind of talking through this with you because I think that there's some important information for you to be aware of here. Do you remember how I said at the beginning there's that box, prior loans charged to entitlement, right? Well, that's important to know because a lot of veterans don't know this part, and that is that you can have multiple VA loans at the same time. Do you know how many real estate agents tell veterans that you can't do that? Or how many mortgage loan originators tell veterans that you can't do that? Well, there's a lot of them. And veterans, I feel like, don't know this information, which is why there's power in this form if you know how to read it correctly. If you don't have an existing VA loan, you could actually, let me go back to this chart for a second, you can actually go higher than that 806,500. Did you guys know that? In other words, the VA will guarantee a loan by 25% up to any purchase price you would like. You say, Jimmy, why is that? Well, because in 2020, the Trump administration rolled out something called the Vietnam Veteran Blue Water Initiative Act, and they lifted the cap on VA loans. So if you're following along in this kind of fine print right here, I'll read it to you. It says, for loans above $144,000, the maximum of entitlement available to the veteran with full entitlement is 25% of the loan amount. In other words, you can go as high as you'd like. Now, keep in mind, right? You still have to get pre-qualified. You got to qualify by income and credit, and the mortgage lender has to approve you, of course, right? But that can absolutely be done. The reason why I'm showing you this here at 806,500 is because that represents the conforming loan limit for a specific county. Now, I want to take it one step further here, right? And this is kind of referencing the bonus entitlement piece in multiple VA loans at the same time, which helps a veteran like you watching this video to build and create wealth. So if somebody came to me, right, and let's just say that they bought a home in 2020 for, I don't know, $300,000, right? $300,000, it would show up in this box that shows in prior loans, there we go, charged to entitlement. Right? So what happens here is if you have 806,500 worth of a VA loan to use, well, I simply subtract that portion out, but guess what? You still have additional VA loan entitlement remaining. You following me along on that? So in this example, right, if we are working with that 806,500 number, that would tell me as your mortgage loan originator that you have 506,500 left over to use towards another purchase. And this is why veterans need to know and understand this form, because guess what? There's a strong possibility the mortgage lender that's working with you, right? They probably don't even know how to read this form. So by the end of this video, you're going to know more than them about that. And they're going to say, how did you know this? Well, Jimmy Vercellino told me. By the way, I do lend nationwide. And if I can personally be a resource for you, I would be honored to do so. Good to go? Having said all of that, you're going to know more about this form than a lot of other mortgage loan originators, because at the end of the day, the VA doesn't teach this stuff. Mortgage loan originators don't understand it, right? The military certainly doesn't go over it. So how in the world can we expect our veterans and active duty service members to know? It's like they don't. And that's why I am here. That way you can unlock this glorious benefit that allows you to build and create massive wealth, maybe I should say generational wealth, or in this scenario, right, create a real estate portfolio for many years to come that changes the dynamics of your wealth, right, and the trajectory of your wealth over a long period of time. So as I kind of come in for a landing here, there are a couple of other things. You can see issued by John R. John actually, well, we call him Jack. He works for me and our team. We call him Handsome Jack, right? He's the one that's retrieving all of our certificates of eligibility. You can see the date here, but if you go down below that, funding fee. Veteran is exempt from funding fee due to receipt of service-connected disability compensation of approximately $1,618 a month in this case, right? So that's a big deal because, again, you're able to get your VA funding fee waived. Now, funding fee refund. Sometimes there's veterans that get charged a VA funding fee when they shouldn't. And that has to do with like active duty service members that are leaving the military. Maybe their VA claim hasn't come in yet. Maybe they filed it and then they closed on their house and they've paid the VA funding fee. Well, did you know that you are actually entitled to get your VA funding fee back? And there's information on how to do that in this line that you guys can read about. Good to go? So I hope that you found this information to be of value, and I hope that you enjoyed kind of hanging out with me here. I kind of enjoyed going through all of it. I thought it was fun, right? And so, by the way, I did write an ebook on VA loans, and if you guys would like a copy of that, I'll be more than happy to make it available by putting a link in the description below, answering the top 11 questions that veterans and active duty service members have when it comes to VA home loan benefits. My name is Jimmy Vercellino. As I stated earlier, I'm a mortgage loan originator. I specialize in VA loans. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.